Shalom, shalom, Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class. I'm Yalkut Yosef. And we are continuing with our halachot regarding nitilah, hamotzi, a meal. So the next halacha that Yalkut Yosef is going to teach us is what exactly is considered a distraction, hiesach hada'at. As we learned, certain cases, a distraction may force you to say hamotzi one more time or nitilah one more time. Let's see what we're looking at. Okay. So he says like this. When somebody said, Mayim Achronim chova, and then you bring him the cup, and he washed his hands. Once you physically wash your hands, says the Yalkut Yosef, you're not allowed to eat or drink until after Birkat Hamazon. If you think that I need a reminder, Mayim Achronim, just like we have Mayim Rishonim, the first water that we do before Birkat Hamazon, there's also Mayim Achronim. That's the water that right before Birkat Hamazon, we wash our fingertips. At least according to the simple interpretation, it's because back in the day they had very salty, strong salt, that if they wouldn't wash their hands after the meal, and they touched their achas, somebody could become blind. So that's the pshat. According to the Kabbalah, there's a deeper reason, but either way, we have to do the Mayim Achronim. The only water that is considered reshut is Mayim Emtzaim, the water that we do in the middle of a meal, between fish and meat, or between fish and cheese. I'm not even sure over there it's a requirement, but unless your hands actually touched the fish or touched the cheese, and now there's a fear that it's going to get mixed. Now, even though fish and meat are not a issur from the Torah to eat together, but there's a sakana. Chachamim say, Chamira sakanta misura. It's more severe when there's a sakana, when there's a danger, then the halacha restricts it. So therefore, don't eat fish with meat, don't eat cheese with meat. We've mentioned that there are opinions about this, let's not get into that. But either way, once the Mayim Achronim hits, that is a statement that I'm about to say Birkat Hamazon. But now I became hungry again, and I'm waiting for this guy for the zimun, and until he comes, I want to have another piece of a watermelon or whatever. That's it. I already said Mayim Achronim, I cannot eat, and I cannot drink. What happens if you already said Havlan v'nevrich? So if you're about to say that, today it's already the lashon, the language of a zimun. Havlan v'nevrich lemaka ela kadisha. Everybody says Shamayim. But all of a sudden you said Havlan v'nevrich and you stopped. Your wife called you whatever it is, and now you came back to the table. If you want to drink now, you have to say a beracha. Right? So you have to say Shakol Niya Bidvoro. But if you're going to eat something, this is not as powerful as Mayim Achronim. Meaning, if you're going to eat something, then there's a safek. If since you said this, it disconnected you with the meal or not. And because there's a safek, you shouldn't say a bracha on the food, on matzi or mirma. But regarding the drink, there's more room to say that you have to say a bracha. Why? Because some opinions even hold that the amotzi doesn't even cover the drinks. It's not part of the dish. You have to say a separate bracha on it. I don't remember if we learned it or I prepared it, but ideally, no, we think we learned it last time. But ideally, if you're about to eat and drink, better to take a little portion of water or whatever it is, say she'akol niya bidvaro, and then only do hamotzi and say hamotzi. Why? Shema, maybe the hamotzi doesn't cover the liquids on the table. Yigal baruch haba. Okay? אבל אם הוא אמר כי אורח בסוף שתה, עוד לא מברך. What did I write over here? אם ספק ברכות לקהל לא יברך, וכל זה כשבעל הבית אמר. אבל אם הוא אמר, right, this is important. All of this is when you are not the guy that said the zimun. You were sitting and someone else said havlan v'navrich. In that case, then, you know what I mean? We have to follow the halachot that we just said right now. Which means on a drink we do say, but on food we do not say. But if he himself said it, then ובסוף שתה עוד לא מברך. Okay, I'm not sure what I meant by this over here. בסוף שתה עוד לא מברך. I have to look into this. This is my homework. I wrote something. I guess I wrote it too quickly, and it's not clear to me. But the first part of this halacha is clear to us, that if the balabait said havlan v'navrich, then you're not supposed to eat or drink. And if you are going to do it, on the drink you say shakol, on the food you do not. Just mark this. Okay. Now, sometimes it bothers us to say Birkat Hamazon when the table looks all dirty with crumbs and plates. And so what can we remove and what can't we remove? You want to remove the plates? Good. You want to remove the utensils? Even better. Especially during the week, they say it's not good to have a knife on the table when you're about to say Birkat Hamazon. Why? Anybody know why? What's the reason? Where did this come from?
Somebody kill himself
Why? Very good. Why would someone kill himself?
when they mention
Exactly.
of it Hamikdash.
We're mentioning the Yerushalayim, we don't have a Bet HaMikdash. From the sadness, you may come to do something with that knife. Now you may say, this sounds so far. It sounds so far. Where are we today? But the Gedolim, the Rashash, the great Tzaddik Mekubal, when he would get Modim Anachnu Lach, he would say, V'techezena enenu b'shuvcha, let our eyes see your return to Yerushalayim with mercy, berachamim. His eyes were dripping with tears. We a little bit, get lost with that connection that they have. This is the halakha. Since there's a fear that the broken heart is going to do something with the knife, we remove it. On Shabbat, however, it's not a requirement because the simcha of Shabbat overrides the fear that someone may come to do something with a knife. So you can move the plates, you can move the tip, but do not remove the bread off the table. Why? Says Yalkut Yosef, Eino roeh siman bracha. If you remove the bread during Birkat Hamazon, you lose the beracha. There's a beracha on the table, and now not bracha like Baruch Atah She'akol Yom, like the bracha, the abundance that comes down, you lose it by removing that, right?
What if you eat all the bread and it's finished?
Good question. They say that if you are about to finish all the bread, try to save a little piece, because even if you ate all the bread, it's not going to help to bring another loaf of bread and put it on the table. That bread was not part of the amotzi, the original amotzi that you did. So if you know that you have a small amount and you're going to finish it, from the beginning, say amotzi on a few loaves of bread on your table, and then you're covered. But if you have a small bread, yeah, so...
How big should it be? Just to get an understanding.
And no, there's no requirement for size. Any little piece of bread, just as long as you leave a bracha, leave an amount that shows that, a meal was eaten here, you left something, that's a bracha on the table.
That's like symbolic.
Symbolic amount.
Symbolic, exactly. Symbolic. Now, what about the crumbs? Are the crumbs like the bread? Do we remove them? Do we not remove them? So ideally, especially according to the Kabbalah, even the crumbs leave on the table during Birkat Hamazon. My family, when I go to my mom's for Shabbat, everybody likes to, to clean up. So we clean up all the crumbs. We have a tablecloth that is a one-time tablecloth, and we wrap it all in. But I don't put it in the garbage. I leave it on the table with all the crumbs. On the side in another bag, it's okay. No, it doesn't bother anybody. Finish Birkat Hamazon, put that in the garbage. Now bring desserts. That's the right way to do it, so that you cover all the opinions.
Ziv, I heard also once that you have to keep the salt also, right?
It's very good to have the salt. By the way, during Shabbat, ideally, on the table, there should be salt and bread for the whole Shabbat, which means you finish the meal, don't put the bread in the fridge or whatever, and tomorrow take it back out. Try to always have a piece of bread on the Shabbat table. That's a big, it's not an obligation, but it's a good thing to do. All right, same thing with the salt. It's not an obligation, but it's a good thing to do.
What's the reason of the salt? Why particularly salt?
I didn't see Yalkut Yosef regarding that. I've heard what you said before, but I didn't see it inside the halakha. Good question. We will not. Oh, thank you so much. God bless you. Okay, so why the salt? Generally, we have to have salt on the table because there's a pasuk that says Al kol korbancha takriv melach, which means for every sacrifice that they did in the Bet HaMikdash, there had to be salt. So the table reminds us of the mizbeach, like it's like a korban. It's where you do your hamotzi today, where you eat, and therefore we put salt on the table. Right. So that's according to there are also a few more reasons according to the sod. The dipping into the salt 3 times represents. Did we learn this? Or we may have learned it, but let's repeat it because Chacham Johnny is asking. So melach is the gematria of 78. Mem is 40, lamed is 30, and chet is 8. 78. So when I take the bread and I dip it 3 times in the salt, each time in my mind I have to have bistoshish kavana, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem's name. Havaya, Shem Havaya, Shem Havaya. 3 times I do Shem Hashem. 3 times the 26 is 78. So now I dipped 78 into the 78. I dipped the melach into the lechem, which by the way is also 78. Lechem into the melach. So now what do I have? I have 2 78s. The 78 of 3 times bistoshish, and the 78 of the melech. Put those two together, you get 156. 156 is the gematria of Yosef. And Yosef HaTzadik was he who brought bread to the world when there was poverty. So we are mentioning in the remez, by dipping on the table, we are mentioning that just like we're eating bread right now, Yosef HaTzadik brought bread to the whole world. There are a few reasons why to have the salt. Regarding having it specifically in Birkat HaMazon, maybe just because the bread is still there. I don't know. I didn't hear a reason for that. So again, regarding the crumbs, after I said the Birkat HaMazon, now I have it in that tablecloth. Can I throw out the crumbs? So Halakha says that the problem with throwing out bread into the garbage, which you should know is a problem, is only a problem when it's more than a kazait. Yona was asking before, what's the minimum to leave on the table? There is a minimum when you throw something into the garbage. So recommended when you have a lot of buns or leftover bread, don't just throw them into the garbage. Break them to a piece that is less than a kazait. All of this is if you throw it raw into the garbage. But if you wrap it up or double wrap it, some say even then cut it to smaller pieces. Some say no. Once it's wrapped, there's no dishonor to the bread, and you're covered. You don't have to start breaking it into smaller pieces than a kazait. So if you want to cover all opinions, wrap it and cut it. But if not, the wrapping, yeah.
This is a bread that we said a prayer on. Or any bread.
I mean, any bread that you're about to throw out. For what?
Any bread you're about to throw.
Yeah, you have bread in the fridge, an old pita.
Oh,
If
okay.
it already has mold on it and it's not worthy of a person eating, then the problem doesn't exist. There's a Haredi supermarket here in Ra'anana, and they have a bakery, so they sell breads. Whatever you do, you're gonna have some breads left. So I would always wonder what they do. And then recently I saw they have a cart in their basement of the supermarket that they bring all the leftover breads and they just leave the breads in there until they mold. And then once they mold, they throw them out. They're at tzaddikim, they're going according to a very strict opinion. But theoretically, if you would wrap it in a bag, there's an opinion that would also be sufficient. But even though halachically you're covered, halakha says that if you throw away, or maybe not halakha, because halachically you're covered, but chachamim say that by throwing away crumbs, it's kashe le'aniyut. It may bring poverty to somebody. And therefore also the crumbs, if you could wrap them up in a bag, good. If you could throw them to pigeons or to birds, good. This is difficult, meaning people, especially people that are in the food industry, how are you going to save all the food? Or you have a lot of guests on Shabbat, you're going to start sifting what yes, what not. So the easiest and basic opinion would be to cover it in a bag. But if you're able to do this, to give the crumbs to birds or to wrap, wrapping would be, I guess the best idea over here because it's difficult. But some are makpid to even, keep the pirurim on the table to say Birkat HaMazon, because according to the Kabbalah, there's spikes of holiness in these crumbs. And by saying the Birkat HaMazon on the table, you elevate them up, and that's a job in this world, according to the Kabbalah, to elevate all the things that Adam HaRishon and Gan Eden, whatever sin that he had on his level, he brought some sort of destruction that now we are trying to fix by elevating the sparks of holiness that are down here in this world.
Sorry, I heard a while back ago that we're not supposed to, if you make a bracha on a bread, then we're not supposed to feed it to animals, the leftovers. Does that make sense? And this was a while back. I don't remember the source. I don't remember where it came from. But I heard it from, it's a mistake.
I haven't heard that. I'm very curious.
Because they said, the explanation, this was a long time ago, that once we elevate the bread, we elevated it above, for human consumption. No, we're not supposed to feed.
I know what you're saying. It makes sense also what you're saying, but I don't remember reading that everywhere.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to find the source for that. If you find the source for that, let me know. But Halakha clearly says that regarding the crumbs, it would be best to give it to pigeons.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
But maybe there's a differentiation between a crumb and an actual piece of bread. So it doesn't mean that what you're not saying is not true. It's very possible that it is. All right? He also says regarding a knife in Birkat HaMazon.
Also on Shabbat we can throw it out or no?
The
on
bread?
Shabbat, the bread you can throw it in your backyard. The crumbs you can throw it in your backyard. But so that's it. You're not supposed to feed the birds then.
Feed animals that are not yours on Shabbat. You're saying something better to put it on the side and then do it. Again, it's challenging, but it's a chassidut. Usually when people want a big thing from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, they tell them to do something like this. I've heard tzaddikim tell them, take the crumbs after Shabbat, go feed birds or whatever.
Wow.
It's not on you. You have to take care of those birds. They're not even yours. Yeah, but I'm doing something extra. Mishamayim, they're going to do something extra for you. So it's not a simple thing, but it's a good segula. It's a good thing to do. All right. A knife during Birkat Hamazon. On Shabbat, we don't have to cover it like we just said right now. Either we cover it or remove it from the table. Those are the two options that you have. Right. And now, we have 10 options. And now for Mayim Achronim. So as I said before, Mayim Achronim Chova, the final water, it's an obligation. It's not a reshut. The first water is a mitzvah, netilat yadayim. The last water is chova. You're obligated. It's not a mitzvah from the Torah, but you're obligated. Even though the netilat yadayim is also not from the Torah, but the Chachamim gave it a level as if it's from the Torah. Mayim Achronim is chova, and Mayim Emtzayim, the middle water between fish and meat, is reshut. It's not mandatory. But if your hands are dirty, there's much more importance of washing your hands and doing Mayim Achronim. But even if they're fully clean, still you're mikayem the mitzvah of Mayim Achronim chova. Are women obligated as well for this? You'll see most women don't do it. It doesn't mean they're not obligated.
Zev, sorry, the obligation is to wash your hands or to say Mayim Achronim chova?
To wash your hands.
To wash your hands. If you wash it without saying it, still good.
No problem. The reason the custom is to say Mayim Achronim chova is because we learned in Pirkei Avot 10 years ago that any table that a Dvar Torah was not set on it is ochel shel zivchei metim. It's like you bring impurity to the table. So by saying in halacha, you cover that. So some say just by saying Mayim Achronim chova, here I said a Dvar Torah. It's halacha.
Okay.
That's how it came about. But the main thing is to actually wash your hands with the water. Are women obligated? The answer is yes. Just like women are obligated with 100 berachot every day, like the men. You would think, how will women get their 100 berachot? We have 3 times a day Amidah, already 57 berachot hashachar. I calculated a couple of days ago. I got to 81 berachot without doing anything, without eating, without going to the bathroom. You're at 81 berachot. So for a man, it's easy to get to 100, a few meals, this, that. But for a woman, if he doesn't pray, it's much harder. You would think women are exempt. Women are not exempt. They have to say 100 berachot just like the men. They have to do Mayim Achronim just like the men. Is it easy? The Rav Ovadia gives a tip. He says even though a woman is exempt from praying 3 prayers a day, she only has to pray one. He says, but take it upon yourself. Add 2 tefillot a day. You gain more berachot, and then you're able to be able to get to 100. It doesn't exempt you if it's hard to get to 100. A woman just like a man has to get to 100, and she has to do Mayim Achronim. Now, a lot of people are scared of the Mayim Achronim. I heard one time someone said if you drink the Mayim Achronim, for a woman, it grows them a beard and a mustache, all these, emunot tefillot, all these superstitions. But what is the deal behind the Mayim Achronim? Is there a problem with the water? So there is a source to it. The source says that Mayim Achronim have a ruach ra'ah, like an evil spirit in them, right? It's as if what happens here? A lot of mitzvot that we do, we want to shut down the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan. We give him something so that he lets us go. This is a concept in Judaism. And Rav Meir Eliyahu, he has an answer, and he brings 18 different cases where we give something to the Satan, to the Yetzer Hara, so that he leaves us alone, so that we could focus on the mitzvah. For example, the Sa'ir HaMishtalech and Yom HaKippurim, it goes to Azazel, it goes to the Satan, so that he leaves us, so that we can elevate ourselves. The Mayim Achronim, it's kind of the same idea. We give him the water that touches the tip of our fingers. That's for him, and then we dive into the bracha. Whatever deeper reasons are for this, but this is something that happens. But this ruach ra'ah, this evil or impure spirit that dwells on that water, is not if it's in a cup. Only if that water made contact with the ground, then that water on the ground has the evil spirit within it. So it's not good to do it on, let's say you're in a camp, and you're doing Mayim Achronim on the camp, but then people are going to walk through there, not good. You're going to walk through that evil spirit. But if you're at home and you put it in a cup, people are scared of that cup being on the table, then there's no source for that. Really, you could leave it there. Obviously, it's already the custom to remove it from the table, put it in the sink so it doesn't spill on the floor or whatever it is. But the problem is when it makes contact with the floor.
Sorry, if it's on the table, some people have the custom to cover it. Does that have a source or no? That's
So
not even
I think
a
to cover
that's
it
not even a
or
thing.
remove it, I'll be honest with you, that's what I do too. But I've heard Gedolim, including Rav Chaim Edelis, is a big Dayan, saying there's no source for that. The source is when
Okay.
water is problematic when it makes contact with the floor. I'm thinking maybe because there's a concept called ruach ra within the water, people kind of started doing these things.
Gotcha.
Or maybe they have a fear that it's going to spill on the floor, so they remove it off the table.
Well, why it's a big deal if it's put it on the floor? Like, what's the reason?
Then if it's spilled on the floor, then the ruach ra'ah is there. Even though you're right, perhaps it only exists if it's directly from your fingers to the floor. Then maybe that reason is not there anymore. You have to see if it has to do with direct contact from your fingers or not. But I think it began because people really, there's ruach ra'ah with the Mayim Achronim. Back then, everybody did it on the floor. They didn't have like all tiles. They were the floor in their living room was sand. It was a different time. So now we don't have that so much around. Oh, he actually says this, the Yalkut Yosef. He says that if you end up pouring it into a cup, and then from that cup you spill it outside on the floor, you can't say now, very good. You can't say now that the water revived itself into an evil spirit. The evil spirit happens when it's direct from your fingers to the floor. This must be a Kabbalistic reason, right? Something spiritual is happening over here, or whatever it is, you pour into a cup, that's already the barrier, and then that cup is not problematic person. Until where do you have to wash Mayim Achronim? All the way down, middle fingers. So according to Shulchan Aruch, he says Shne Prakim. Each one of these is called a perik, 1, 2. So according to Shulchan Aruch, up to here. That's the right thing to do. But according to the Ari Kadosh, all the way down to your fingers. According to the Kabbalah, all the way to here, whatever you do, you have what to rely on. In fact, the Yalkut Yosef says it doesn't even have to be from a vessel. It could be straight from the faucet or something like that. I think according to the Kabbalah, a lot of people try to do it from a kli. But according to the Peshat, again, it's hard to bring a Pshat to this halacha because it seems like the main thing that is happening with this halacha is Kabbalistic. But whatever it is, Kabbalah is one thing, Pshat is nothing. We have a Pshat reason. The Pshat reason is the hands are salty. We're washing off the salt. So it's okay if you do it directly from a faucet. According to Kabbalah, there's a different way of looking.
So you can do 1 and 1. You don't have to do like three, just 1.
Yeah, there's no need to do 2 together, no problem. Is there an obligation to dry your fingers after that? Why is this question relevant? Is there ever an obligation to dry your hands? Regular netilat yadayim. When you do netilat yadayim, if you said a bracha on netilat yadayim, you have to dry your hands right after that. The bracha goes on with drying. If you don't have with what to dry your hands, you can wait it out until they dry, but you can't say hamotzi until they're dry. So it's an obligation to dry your hands. That's why the question is coming now with Mayim Achronim. Do I have to dry my hands when I do Mayim Achronim? The answer is that it's not an obligation. However, it is recommended to do so. Johnny, the Ben Ish Chai regards the question you asked before. Do we say Mayim Achronim verbally or not? Ben Ish Chai says that his father would sometimes rely on the slang Mayim Achronim Chova as a Dvar Torah for the table. So yeah, Ben Ish Chai did it, and we can rely on it as well. Of course, you are all tzaddikim, you should say longer Divrei Torah, but in case you're in a rush, that covers us. Yeah. Now, this is the topic that we mentioned before. Do we have to remove it from the table? So minadin, we don't have to remove it from the table, like we explained before. There's no source to that. But the Rav Palachi, which was a Mekubal, by the way, Rav Palachi is a rabbi from Turkey, from Izmir. I don't know if you know, but the Rav Shlomo Zabichi and his family, every year they take a plane to Turkey and they do a Hilulah on the day of his passing. They do a big ceremony on his kever. They're big followers of him. Even when there was Corona and there was war, they found a way to get there 3 flights. Rav Palachi is a huge Mekubal. Says the Rav Palachi, even though according to the Pshat, you're right, we don't need to remove it to the table, but it's good that you do so. What do we hear? According to the Kabbalah, there must be something here, but he does it. It's good to do so. And the Yalkut Yosef brings that Rav Palachi. But minadin, again, We don't have to. If someone didn't move it from the table, hey, what'd you do? You have to remove it. No, it's okay. You don't. He follows the pshat. You want to follow Rav Palachi? You're welcome to do so. Now, regarding speaking after Mayim Achronim, so you're allowed to speak. The dry halacha is you're allowed to speak. By the way, the dry halacha is you're also allowed to speak between Netilah and Hamotzi. But we don't do so. We don't want to get dragged into secular conversation. That's what says the people say. Don't speak secular stuff, stam, between the Mayim Achronim and the Berkat Hamazon. There was a story in the time of the Ari HaKadosh. The Ari HaKadosh, it's known that when people would come to him for a bracha, he would look on their forehead, he would tell them all their sins, everything that they did, what they're here to fix. This is a great Mekubal, 500 years ago. It's not from the time of the Gemara. Everybody agreed. One time a guy came to him and said, Rabbi, my shoulder is in pain. Help me, what's wrong? Says the rabbi, you are not makpid on what the Gemara says. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara says, Techef netila beracha. It's referring to Mayim Achronim. Right when you wash your hands from Mayim Achronim, say Berkat Hamazon. Don't make a break in the middle. He says, because you make a break in the middle, your shoulder is hurting you. Why? It's because look at the language of the Gemara. The Gemara says techef. Techef means right away. But techef is the same letters as katef. Katef is a shoulder. He told him, because you're not makpi to do it right away, and your shoulder that's made from the same letters is hurting you. This is how the Ari HaKadosh saw things. So either way, try not to talk between Mayim Achronim and Berkat Hamazon, so that you're mekayim what the Gemara says, techef netilah beracha. Cup for Berkat Hamazon. It's not so customary, especially with the Sfaradim, we don't see it. But I've been to Ashkenazi shuls. The guy that's saying Berkat Hamazon holds a cup. After he says the last Berkat Hamazon, he says Savi Maranan, Borei Per Gefen, and drinks again. And if he drank enough, he has to say Ala Gefen again as well, all right? Now, what is the din of a kos pagum? A cup that someone already drank from, and I want to use it for Kiddush. What do I need to do? This happens a lot in Shabbat. The guy missed Kiddush, and now there's a half a cup with my wife in this cup of tea. Now there's a half a cup left. Does he have to throw it out, wash the cup? What can he do? The answer is that it's called a kos pagum. It's an imperfect cup because it's been used. However, if you refill it with wine, then you are removing the pagam from the cup and you can do Kiddush all over again. So if it's, let's say, 60-70% full, don't waste it. Fill it up another 30%. And right then, you could do Kiddush on that cup. And finally, let's conclude with this halacha. Is a plastic cup worthy of a Kiddush? Is it considered a kli? Or do we need to do it with a metal cup? There's a machloket between Rav Ovadia and Rav Feinstein, which is the rabbi of the USA. And Rav Feinstein said that a one-time cup, a chad pami, a plastic cup, is not worthy of a Kiddush because it's not a vessel, it's plastic. Rav Ovadia holds otherwise. He thinks that it's worthy. We see today a lot of people use these plastic cups. The reason why we throw it out is because it's so cheap that it's not even worth washing. But it's not that it's not worthy. It's worthy. You could even reuse it if you want to, and therefore it's considered a kli. Nachala Maaseh, like Rav Ovadia, we are allowed to do Kiddush on a plastic cup. All right, Rabotai.
Ziv.
Questions? Sorry.
No, I said thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Stay safe, Ziv. Okay.
By the way, Ziv, in Farsi, katef and ketf is the same thing.
Yeah?
In Farsi, ketf. You call this part
Okay.
ketf.
Wow.
Katef. You said katef. I never knew that.
You see that the Iranians know something.
Ketf. Yeah, ketf. This is called ketf. Katef.
Amazing.
I like that.
All right, see you.
Ziv, I have a question. Sorry,
Hello.
about the cup of wine to reuse it. Has to be if it's like more than 50% wine left.
No.
It's good.
No matter
No, less.
what it has left in it, the idea is that you don't have to wash it. As long as you refill it now, that's it.
Even if you put like 10% in it, it's okay.
Yeah. You
Oh wow.
you fixed the problem. The problem was it wasn't full and it's been drank from. By filling it up, that's gone.
Toda rabba. Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you so much. Be
Okay,
safe. Thank you so
cool.
much. Our prayers for everyone.